Wow, we have received a lot of news recently. In Upland, we've had this fantastic little video clip demonstrating the debut of Motors. We've had the Upland panel at South by Southwest, and of course we've had the most recent Q&A with X1 General Mort and of course co-founder Edan. I have seen them all, I've been taking notes, and I'm going to share everything that we've learnt over the last few days about Metamotors, or as they're now called Motors, and everything else to do with the Metaverse right here for you guys in this video. How's it going, everybody? This is Radishhead and welcome back to another episode of Upland Analysis. I want to start by announcing that this episode is proudly sponsored by Droop Designs. Take a look at this portfolio of logos that Droop has worked on. He's an absolute genius in graphic design, and he is here to help you if you have a node or a meta venture or a community project that needs branding. He's here for you. Click the link in the description for all of your needs, including logos, flyers, and graphics to grow your audience quickly. So once again, thank you very much Droop Designs for sponsoring this video. Check it out in the description. It's a fantastic Upland service. Right, so the first of the three things which was released by Upland over the past few days was this Cars Enter the Metaverse video, and I want to kind of run through it a little bit, give my reactions, because it's only short. This video might be a bit fast-paced because we've just had so much information recently. But let's have a quick look at this, and I'll show you a few things which I thought were interesting. So this first bit, you've got to admit, this is extremely attractive, and these assets would have come from somewhere, right? So I'm wondering if this is a sneak peek of the showrooms, which I'll be talking about more in a minute, but the in-game racing doesn't quite look like this. It's not as attractive as this. This, I think, could be an example of the showrooms where we'll be able to show off our cars and resell them. Hopefully that's not too loud compared to my voice. There we go, I've turned it down a little bit. So yeah, that could be the showroom there. And there you go, it's rebranded to Motors. Now I'm going to pause right here, select a city, which is interesting. So confirmed, we'll be able to race our cars across different cities. And in this example, they click on New Orleans. Oh, yeah. That is because this track here that you're looking at, it is Bourbon Street. So the iconic street running through the French Quarter, that is what this first track is. And you can see that when you're dropped into the race, it is set on the Metaverse map itself. So as people are continuing to develop Bourbon Street with structures, property ornaments, and then later on outdoor decor and stuff like that, you'll really be able to decorate these race courses and make them quite appealing to race on. It does look like at the start of the race, where I've just paused here, the car that we're following sort of takes off a lot quicker than the others. It really sort of speeds ahead, and I'm wondering if that's some kind of boost that they've used, or if their car is better than the others in terms of acceleration or what. I don't know, but it definitely looks like it pulls away from the line a lot quicker. Look at that. So they're racing along, and we can see that they're changing the camera perspective here. And in the bottom right, you can see there's actually 3 camera perspectives associated with the racing so far. The top one is like the helicopter view, which is what we're looking at right now. There's also the kind of third-person car view, which is what we saw right at the start. So just sort of following the car. That's that one. And then the third one, which is quite interesting, is the first person view, which I'm assuming might be this view, like right up. Not exactly first person, because unless your head is literally sticking out the side of the car, but yeah, 3 camera controls at the moment. And you can see from the UI that there's 5 players competing here, so confirmed at least 5 players in a race. And as I unpause, look at that. This is quite cool. So there's lots of different type. You can race any type of vehicle. You don't just have to race the sports cars. You can race the trucks, which we know will ultimately be used to haul goods from place to place for your meta venture shops. But you can race them as well. I think the idea of having truck racing is quite a fun idea. The only other thing I wanted to point out was right at the end of the video. It looks like this red car here kind of uses a nitrous boost or something. Hang on, look at that. Zoom! It like flashes blue and then it races towards the finish line. That's something which hasn't been confirmed yet, but I thought it was interesting. So it looks like there might be some kind of boost that maybe you can install onto your car, for that's some sort of consumable. Haven't seen anyone else talk about that, but that is all the information that I was able to glean from that Cars Enter the Metaverse video. Very hype, and of course it's not the most attractive looking racing experience of all time. It's not quite Need for Speed, but I think it's important to mention this is an alpha demo footage, and I think what the guys as Metamotors are doing is creating that foundation, so making sure that all the mechanics are there and then kind of building on top of that. So you don't want to go in there with the flashiest thing ever, because that's going to make it more and more difficult to improve with the features as time goes on. So they're getting the features in first, and then they're going to kind of build the visuals on top of that. I think that's my guess. That's pretty good game design logic. The guys who Upland have partnered with in order to get Metamotors into Upland seem very competent, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they do here, and this is a very good first step in my opinion. And of course the next source of news that we had from Upland regarding Metamotors was the South by Southwest panel. It's definitely worth a watch, I think, if you haven't had the opportunity yet. One of the main pieces of information I was able to get from this panel in particular was about Holoride. Now, it hasn't been officially announced that Upland have a partnership with Holoride, but they were talking as though it was already a done deal. For those of you who aren't aware, Holoride is all about like a virtual reality driving experience, I think with Oculus 2, and they were talking about how that kind of technology would work really well in Upland because it's mapped to the real world. It's the only metaverse where the Holoride experience would really work. They were going through use cases of that. So not officially confirmed, but basically confirmed that in the future Holoride is likely to have something to do with Upland, which is obviously very exciting news. They confirmed that cars will be released into the game as private experiences to start with, so you'll be able to drive your own car, but then they're exploring opportunities to do things like ride sharing or public transport. During this panel, we also got confirmation that cars will be available to sell for dollars or UPX to other players, just like the other NFTs in the game. It was mentioned that Spark is going to be used to power the cars, so there'll be the requirement for people to set up Spark charging stations, and you'll be able to take your car across country. So it's not just going to be travel within the same city. The way that you currently navigate the map via trains and planes, you'll also be able to do that with cars, but you'll have to charge your car along the way. So that's where these charging stations are really going to come into their own, where players are doing cross-country trips. So people with a lot of Spark may be able to stake it in some kind of charging station and then let other people use that to charge their cars. This panel at South by Southwest was also the first kind of inadvertent announcement of the STEM token. Previously called the Life token, they kind of accidentally announced that it's called STEM, and that is going to be almost like another version of Spark, but it's going to be for everything organic. So trees, plants, pets, it's all going to be based off this STEM token. And while I'm on that topic, in the AMA, EDAN basically said that they're going to hold off on releasing anything organic into Upland before this STEM token is added into the game. So we're going to be able to manufacture anything that's an inanimate object. The STEM token is a little bit further out. It might not even come this year, but the idea is that people will be able to get this STEM token somehow and then decorate the metaverse with organic structures and pets and animals and all of that kind of good stuff. It was once again confirmed that it is in the works, that we're going to move beyond just cars. There's going to be boats, there's going to be motorbikes, there's going to be private aviation, which I thought was a good one. So you don't have to go to the airport to fly, you can have your own private jet, and that's going to make the Upland metaverse feel a lot more alive in terms of being able to move around to different places. And they really reinforced kind of that overall vision for why people would want to have a car or have a boat to travel around the metaverse. And that is because ultimately they want to strengthen the local identity of different neighborhoods and different cities. At the moment, you can instantly teleport across a city, and therefore the advantage of building up a specific neighborhood isn't really very apparent, because if there's something which you want to do on one side of a city, you can just teleport over there and then go back home. But the ultimate vision is that these individual parts of the city and different countries or whatever, as we go international, you're not going to be able to just teleport to them. It's going to take time, and it's going to be about a 1:5 ratio. So if it takes you about an hour to get from one side of a city to another, it's going to take about 5 hours in Upland. And that means that there's going to be a lot more reason to own a nice car rather than walking or taking the bus. Because if you need to do a business deal on one side of the city, it's going to take a little bit of time to get there, and it's going to make these neighborhood nodes mean a lot more. If we can get a highly concentrated density of meta ventures all in a single part of a city, that's going to attract players to set their personal residences there, because they don't have to spend that time and UPX to travel there. So that's the idea, is as time goes on, different parts of different cities are going to feel a little bit more unique. And they really reinforced that vision across this panel, which I thought was very interesting. And finally, yesterday, as of the time of recording, we had the Founders AMA for the Motor Economy update. I like the fact that it looks like I'm part of the founding crew with my with my face cam in the corner here. So what did we learn from this AMA for those of you who either weren't able to attend or didn't have your notepad ready like I did? Well, first of all, it was confirmed that racing in Upland is the first Unity-based 3D immersive experience. And they said the first, so clearly there are plans in the works for more. Who knows what they're going to be, but they clearly have vision for more than just racing in Upland. It was also elaborated that cars will be bought and sold in showrooms, and the car asset has to physically be at the location of the showroom. And that's whether you're buying a car new from Metamotors or buying it second hand from another player. You've got to set up a showroom and then get that car asset into the showroom, and then players will be able to go to the showroom, have a look at the cars that are in there, and then either mint it or buy it for UPX or dollars, depending on what the selling player chooses to sell the car for. It was confirmed that they are working on Uplanders being able to manufacture their own cars, but at the start it is going to be Uplands themselves via Metamotors at that Santa Clara plant, who are going to be manufacturing the first cars into the metaverse. And they're working with real brands. So there's a vision that there's going to be real brands like, your Ferraris or your Fords alongside Uplander created brands. And I think the idea is there's going to be different specs of cars. So if they do get a partnership with Ferrari, for example, the cars that are produced for Ferrari are probably going to be very high in spec and presumably a lot more expensive to mint for that reason. And something which I thought was really interesting, which I haven't seen many people talking about, is it was confirmed that if you have a factory and you want to start producing your own cars, you're not just going to be able to choose what the specs are, because that wouldn't make any sense. Everybody would just be producing the best cars from the start. There's going to be some kind of spark research and development investment needed in order to produce better cars. So that's a huge requirement for Spark in the future, and I'm going to be buying more Spark, I think, just for that, because I envision that the biggest players are going to be renting loads of Spark so that their factories are producing the best cars in the metaverse. You're going to have to commit a lot of Spark in order to upgrade your factory and therefore be able to pump out better cars. And it just means that as time goes on and the metaverse develops, there's just going to be better and better cars coming out over time, and it could result in certain cities becoming renowned for cars because they're going to have all of the factories that were there from the start. For example, the places where the people have invested the most Spark into their factories, and people are going to know, oh, if I want to get the best cars in the game, I've got to head on over to Detroit, go downtown and see the factories there, for example. And that's all part of having that city identity. It was confirmed that you don't need a structure in order to own a car, but all cars will have to exist on the map in some form. So you will need a property in order to park your car on. So I don't think you need like a structure house to park your car, but you will need a property because all cars exist as 3D assets on the map. As I was saying earlier, the overall vision for cars is to revolutionize the way that travel is done in Upland. So within the same city, not just between cities. However, that isn't going to come with the initial release of the cars. That's what Edan is calling real world travel, and that might not even come in 2022. That's going to be a massive revolution for the way that Upland is played. At the moment, it's going to stick with how it is at the moment. You can just send from, one side of the city to the other. That's not going to change with the release of cars, but ultimately that is going to change, and you're going to need to drive in order to get from one side of the city to the other. The actual car racing mechanics, it sounds like it's not going to be controlled as such with like the arrow keys or the touchscreen or whatever. The skill involved is going to be in picking the right car, the right explorer, the right add-ons and the right consumables in order to have the best chance at winning the race. So it sounds like it's going to be less about being mechanically skilled and maybe more about being like mathematically or strategically skilled in order to maximize your chances of winning. It's like going to be about playing the numbers game, which is going to be really interesting to see. They didn't elaborate too much on that, but it'll be, as I say, quite interesting. It was confirmed that you can play for fun, or you can put money down and do a race for UPX. However, you won't be able to gamble on the outcome of other people's races in-game because obviously being based out of the United States, gambling is illegal in most parts of America. However, Edan did make the comment that in the future they will be able to geogate certain features. So if you're playing Upland and you are in Las Vegas, you may be able to gamble on the outcomes of other people's races or attend a casino, or if you're in another part of the world where gambling is okay, it may be geogated so that you can do those activities. In terms of accessibility of the cars, Edan kind of played down the possibility of everybody owning a car right at the start. Because Upland have to follow the same rules as us, they've got to actually manufacture these cars with Spark in the factories, and that's a time-consuming process. So that means that the first batch of cars, there's going to be way more demand for those than there is supply. So he was basically hinting that the first set of cars are going to be very expensive because lots of players are going to want them. So if you're able to get your hands on one of those early cars, there's a good chance you're going to be able to sell that for a lot more than you paid for it. But as time goes on, they keep manufacturing these cars. Eventually, the supply demand is going to balance out, especially once other players are going to be able to manufacture their own cars and get their own brands out into the metaverse. Edan was pressed for a timeline on when we could expect cars and racing and all of these other things. He wasn't able to commit to a timeline, but he did reassure us that it is a top priority of the team to hit their roadmap objectives. And of course, they've recently hired the new development team in Brazil, so I'm pretty confident that they're going to be able to get something out to us very soon on that. I think to reassure the people who are afraid they're never going to be able to afford a car, General Mort said that they are actively looking for creative ways to get cars into the hands of players, not just through paying dollars or UPX. There's probably going to be competitions, for example. So if you really want to get involved in the car game right near the start, keep an eye out on the Upland communication channels, because I'm sure they're going to have a way for people to enter a competition or something in order to get their own car. Aside from cars, they did answer a few questions which people had on other topics, such as the community spawned collection neighborhoods, which is something which I've been really keen on, being very involved in the Century City node. Shout out to the guys in Century City and Century Citizens. Edan said that community spawned collections are more than just where people have built the most structures. It's also about where people have built the most Metaventures, where people have had the most outdoor decor, and where people have set their personal residences in the highest quantities. And obviously, we don't have outdoor decor and we don't have personal residences. And he basically said that we're not going to be seeing community spawned collections until after all of those things are in the game. Then we'll see the first community spawned collections coming out. So by all means, everybody build up your neighborhoods, get loads of structures in there, but there's no rush in order to get those community spawned collections. We've got to wait for personal residences to come out, and we've got to wait for outdoor decor to come out as well. So hopefully later on in the year we'll start seeing those things coming out, and then we can get excited about collection spawning. Edan was also pressed on the question of stability improvements for city releases. He reinforced that there were plans to scale the blockchain for the ultimate target of millions or tens of millions of users, but acknowledged that in the short term there is work to do to improve the city launch experience for the players. So he is aware that there are issues with launching cities and that structural improvements are being made all the time. And the final question was about support staff. I know that the support times at Upland can be quite lengthy, and it was good to hear confirmation from X1 that they are, yes, expanding the support staff. They're going to be having support in lots of different countries, and actually they're expanding the team across all areas. So as Upland continues to grow, they are investing where they need to invest, it sounds like. And finally, Edan was wearing a very cool Metamotors shirt, and X1 commented on that and basically said, keep an eye out for merch. There's going to be Upland merch, there's going to be M-Motor merch. So that's going to be cool. I want to own my own Miles the Llama shirt. Or maybe a plushie to put on my desk. So that was all the notes that I took from the Cars intro video, the South by Southwest panel, and the Founders AMA. I hope you found it useful. I just wanted to quickly say thank you so much for 2,000 subscribers. I know I promised something very exciting for 2,000. It is coming. It's going to be probably the next video announcement that I do. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love it if you did. It really does help me out. And if you want to like and comment as well, that would be fantastic as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.